Om. That's the challenge of being a high-tech Swami, is that you come with all this gizmology that you have to set up. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvushavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I have to tell you that this text we're taking is extraordinary. And we only have 5 days to cover this. This text could easily take 3 times as long. And the material we'll be covering today, finishing this verse and going to the next verse. So we're finishing verse 1. We already covered verse 2. And then we'll be going to verse 3. And the material we'll be covering is exquisite and extraordinarily profound. And I'm not saying that because I'll be teaching it. It was my experience when I was taught this from my guru, Swami Advayatmananda Saraswati. So I hope you've had your coffee or your chai, and I ask you to buckle up and buckle in, because I need you to be here with me and follow me as I go. Some of the material I would spend 2 or 3 times as much time on unfolding. But I want to be able to, at the end, say we finished the text, right? So I don't want to sacrifice any clarity, but I need you to be with me and be present. So, Nahan deho nendriyan yantarangam, Nahan deho nendriyan yantarangam, Nahankara pranavargo na buddhihi, Nahankara pranavargo na buddhihi, Darapatya kshetra vittadi duraha, Darapatya kshetra vittadi duraha, Sakshi nitya pratyagatma shivoham, pratyagatma shivoham. Very nice. So we've covered the first pada and we've started the second pada. So nahan dehaha. So what we're doing, remember, is that we're identifying what is the aham pratyaya gochara and what is the idam pratyaya gochara. Meaning, what is the referent of the thought I, and what is the referent of the thought this. And anything we can point to as this is naham, is not me. Right? And so we're doing what's called a drik-drisha viveka, or an atma-anatma viveka. Because to understand the teaching of Vedanta, we have to understand first who we are by appreciating who we are not. Right? We counted out all the other 9 people. And only in that context, once that context was created, you were able to understand. All the other options were ruled out. And now you could understand I am the 10th man. So he's saying, I am not the stula sharira, dehaha, Naham indriyani, the karmendriya and jnanendriya, our I-O, input-output mechanisms, right? The senses and how we interact with the world. Antarangam, we presented as manas, the seat of emotion, basically, or doubt, samshaya, antakarana, nivrittis. Also, chittam can be presented here, like memory, right? And then also, we said naham buddhihi. So we spent some time what the buddhi is. Now we'll finish this up, ahankaraha and pranavargaha. So naham, aham na asmi, I am not the pranavarga. Varga means a group. And there's pancha-pranas. We won't go into too much detail, but we can appreciate these as the autonomic nervous system. Prana is the respiratory system. Vyana is the circulatory system. Samana is the digestive system. Apana is responsible for evacuation. And udana is responsible for reverse processes like sneezing, vomiting. And Puja Swamiji would always say, it's responsible for ejecting the sukshma sharira out of the stula sharira at the time of death. He seemed to take great joy in saying that. But it's prana, vyana, samana, udana, and apana. So when you say, I am hungry, you could say, I am hungry. And that's a real problem. Or you could say, there is hunger. Is hunger aham or idam? This hunger comes and this hunger goes. I am the constant presence which illumines the coming and going of hunger. So I am not the hunger, right? The hunger depends upon me, because if I wasn't here, there'd be no hunger. But I'm independent of the hunger. Or you are not your high blood pressure. You're not your circulatory system. Continuing, ahankara, naham ahankara. Oftentimes, ahankara is translated, particularly in the vernacular, as ego, right? He has a big ego. That's not what we mean here. We use the term manitvam for ego. Sri Krishna in the 13th chapter talks about amanitvam adambhitvam ahimsak shantararjavam. That manitvam is a bloated sense of self-worth based on the attributes you have. So that's not the ahankara we're talking about. Ahankara means aham karoti, that which makes I. Not paramatma I, not the limitless I, but the individuated I. That which makes me an individuated being. Okay? A jiva, an individuated being. And it contains the notion, it's always predicating something about me. It says, I am X. Fill in the value of X. That aham asmi, I am, is perfectly fine, because that's true, I am. But what it tries to glue onto me is anatma, not me. Right? So I am the body, and therefore aham dehaha, tasmat, I am subject to death. I am the body, and therefore I'm subject to death. I am my buddhi, and therefore I am smart, or I am dumb. Right? I am my manas, my emotions, and therefore I am agitated. And we know that's not true, because who knows the agitation of the mind? To whom does the agitation of the mind come to light? Me. Right? The agitation comes and goes. I'm ever there. Once when I was 7 or 8 years old, I remember I was a crazy little kid. I remember looking in the mirror, and I thought to myself, I am the same person now that will be looking back at me in the mirror as the person who will be looking into the mirror when I'm 60 years old. It's true, everything changed. The body was different, my intellect was different, my interests were different, my history was different. But the person I was at 8 years old, it's the same person that looks back at me in the mirror now. It's just all the incidentals have changed. Right? But when I claim myself to be these incidentals, then I have a problem. So this ahankara means I maker. It creates this individuated person. And it's a rascal of a thought, because it predicates, meaning it tries to glue an-atma to atma. I am X, and every value of X is a variable. Idam, the pronoun sarvanama, is a variable. Right? This body, this thought, this emotion, this prana, I am this, I am X, I am idam, naham idam, right? Naham vishaya, aham vishayi. I am not the object, I am the subject. And so this rascal of a thought continues in an ignorant state, continues to try to tell me things about me that are not true. I am Shambhavi. I'm married to Shiva, and I live in Chicago. Right? The world tries to tell me who I am. I am Fred Flintstone. I live in Bedrock City. I'm married to Wilma. Right? Yabba dabba doo. Hopefully somebody understands that reference. Right? And it's untrue. An ignorant ahankara will believe that. An enlightened ahankara will laugh at that. Right? Because the thought is still going to come, I am hungry, but there's no confusion there. Right? A jnani will still say, someone will ask, when did people like to talk to Swamis in the third person. Right? It's considered polite. Talking to somebody in the second person is not impolite. Arjuna addressed Sri Krishna in the second person all the time. But we'll say, bhavatyaha namakyam, right? We'll speak about somebody in the third person in Sanskrit. Yeah, it's fine. But so an enlightened ahankara will know that that's just a way of talking. Some swamis say, somebody might ask in some traditions, when did this come? This arrived yesterday on the train. It sounds a bit pretentious. It's totally accurate, but it's perfectly fine to say I arrived yesterday, and we all know what we're talking about. Maybe a jnani or jnanini. Jnanini is just Strilinga, the feminine form of jnani. And so this is this ahankara. And everything we've just enumerated, everything that we've jettisoned from our self-identity, the body, the mind, the senses, and everything, are technically called an upadhi. And this is an important concept. An upadhi upa means samipe, and the adhi, it comes from upa plus a plus dha. So upa means samipe. Samipe stitva anyatra swagunan adate iva iti. That by its mere proximity, as though gives its qualities to somebody else, to something that doesn't enjoy those qualities. So because the presence of the body as though imbues me with mortality and illness, right? Because of the presence of the mind as though imbues me with ignorance and knowledge and emotions. And so many of us swamis are like prop comics. Anybody know who Gallagher is? The comedian? He was a prop comic. And so his whole shtick, I was teaching in Boston, and I did some of these things, and someone came up to me and said, I really enjoyed your shtick, right? So Gallagher's whole shtick was he'd bring a watermelon up on stage and smash it with a sledgehammer. And the whole audience would get messy. I think like if you go see Shamu at SeaWorld, they'd give you some covering so you didn't get all wet. But, so we have shtick, we have props. Usually I travel with this, but now they provide it. So what we have here is a Shuddha Spatika, a clear crystal. And now when I put the crystal in front of a blue cloth, can you see it? Yeah. I now have a blue crystal, right? So come on, you've been here with the Swami enough. Some of these are trick questions. I have a Nitya Shuddha Spatika, a crystal that is always clear. When I put it in front of a blue crystal, in front of a blue cloth, I now have a blue crystal, right? No. They're correct. This is like, when you take the SATs, part of the strategy is to rule out the obviously incorrect questions. I do not have a blue crystal. The crystal does not become blue. It appears blue. Why does it appear nila? It's nilavat. It's as though blue. It's because the upadhi, the blue cloth, lends its aupadika dharmas, its dharma here means attributes, to that which does not inherently enjoy its attributes. This awareness, when you have, I'm feeling so sad, I'm feeling so blue, right? Does awareness absorb the qualities of the sadness of the heart? No, it illumines those. It's inherently free. Just like this crystal is inherently free of the qualities that this blue cloth is trying to imbue it with. When I know the true nature of the crystal, I don't have to remove the cloth. Even in the presence of the blueness that I perceive, I can recognize that the blueness is just incidental, that is adhyasta, that is superimposed upon the crystal and making the crystal look as though blue, but the crystal is ever free of being blue. So the upadhi is the cloth, the nilatvam, the blueness, is the dharma of the upadhi, is the attribute of the upadhi, which seems to lend it to the crystal, which the crystal says, okay, I'll take that on for a while, as though, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? And then when I'm feeling red with anger, we now have a red crystal, right? No, good. No, right? The blueness left and the redness came. The sadness left and the anger. This is part of, the 5 stages of grieving, right? Right? And now that when you begin to have Purushartha Nishchaya, and you're like the bald man walking through the shampoo aisle of a store, now all of a sudden you become orange. as though. Right? So this is a very important concept. What is the teaching? What is the crystal represents Nitya Shuddha Chaitanya, awareness which is ever pure, ever clear, free of any attribute. And the Karya Karana Sanghata, this body-mind-sense complex, because the Anyonya Adhyasa, the mutual superimposition, I as though become sad. For a samsari, for an ajnani, for someone who doesn't know, I become sad, I become happy, I become jealous. Green with jealousy. I didn't have time to show you green. Right? For a jnani, it would be as though, eva. Right? Someone can still have emotions, but you recognize that they're incidental to you. So really through this Atma and Atma Vichara, we're identifying what is incidental to our identity and what is fundamental to our identity. And really what we're doing, we're solving half of the equation Tattvamasi, the Mahavakya. Mahavakyas are the teaching of the Shastra in just one pithy sentence. And when it says, you are God, which you are you talking about? You have to extricate your identity from the incidental, which is your karana karana sanghata, this body-mind-sense complex that we just walked through, which is an upadi, and the upadi is incidental to you, just as the cloth and the qualities of the cloth are incidental to the crystal. We could spend all class on that drishtanta, that's an example. But so one definition actually, when you look in the dictionary, of upadi is a disguise. I talk about it as a costume. We're all costumed, right? I'm costumed as a Swami, you're costumed as a man or a woman or an American or a priest or a householder, right? These are the costume, disguise. Upadi, you look at the dictionary, it's a disguise. We're all disguised, right? We incarnate as this character. We're disguised as our gender. Atma has no gender. Sri Dakshinamurti has two different earrings, one to represent both the male and the female form, right? You, as a transmigrating being, are gender-free, right? You happen to be wearing the costume of a man or happen to be wearing a costume of a woman or maybe somewhere in between, who knows? Right? So your gender is not inherent in who you truly are. Arjuna spent a year as a woman teaching dance before they went back to fight the Mahabharata war. So, and actually India, curiously, India recognizes a third gender. Very interesting. And these transgendered play an important part in the marriage ceremony. You know that. They come and I hear they harass the couple, or at least the bride, before, and they're supposed to give their blessing. You pay them some money, and they give you some blessing. How progressive! All right. So now the next statement: Dara apatya kshetra vitta adi duraha. Dura means far away, and meaning you inherently are far away from Dara. It means wife, but it means your partner or spouse. Apatya. It means children. Kshetra means property. Vitta means wealth. Adi means etc. You can fill in whatever you want. And so what this statement is saying is recognizing that our identity often extends to the objects that we have temporary possession of. Right? I am my vitta. I am my stock portfolio. I am my property. It's always been very curious to me, like when someone would come in and say to my house, and they'd say, "Oh, what a beautiful rug." Most people would say, "Thank you," as if commenting on the beauty of the rug, complimenting the rug was complimenting you. Your identity extends to the rug, so when they compliment the rug, they compliment you. I, having very minimalistic social graces, I would say literally, "It is, isn't it?" What a beautiful rug. Yes, it is, isn't it? What a beautiful shirt. Yes, it is, isn't it? Oh, thank you. I am so refined in my aesthetics. Thank you for noticing. Right? And if you happen to be in an accident or have that flat tire on the way to work, oh, I got a flat tire. Someone hit me on the freeway. You didn't get the flat tire. No one hit you. Your car got a flat tire. Your car got hit, right? So the sense of possessiveness, this mamata, extends our identity out into objects in the world, including that's my wife, that's my son, that's my house, that's my wealth. When really it's just on loan. We come into this world empty-handed, and we're going to leave empty-handed. Right? Why not hold on to the things we have temporary possession of lightly? It all belongs to Bhagavan, and He's the one who gives it to us, and He's the one who could take it away. Right? And so we also often want to control the things we feel we own. You are going to go to school, my son. You are going to become an engineer or a doctor. You are not going to learn sitar and become a musician. For your own good. Maybe there's some wisdom in that, But the world needs, sarod players as well. And lastly, this mamata gives the sense of, these are the sources of my happiness. Shankara talks about this in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Ityasa Bhashya. My well-being is dependent on my possessions or my relatives' well-being, right? Your heart is with your spouse, is with your children. When your child is sick, you're very concerned. But your well-being is independent, actually, of the state of anything that happens to be within the purview of your control or your temporary ownership, so to speak. Sakshi nitya pratyagatma shivaha aham, the last line. So after all this neti, after we recognize that, after we've relegated all anatma into the jagat, after we've relegated all the things we can identify as this body, this mind, this house, this thought, this memory, this emotion, this indigestion, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the world, into the jagat. Cognitively, I relegate it into the jagat. And spoiler alert, this entire jagat, the stula and sukshma srishti, the entire physical and subtle creation, is nothing but Ishvara. So you're just giving back cognitively, you're just giving back to Ishvara what is already his. Right? Who are we to offer anything to Bhagavan? It already belongs to him. But the concept of offering it to Ishvara helps us sort of remove our sense of ownership of it. So who am I after we've dismissed all these false notions of who we're not? I am the Sakshi. So we've extricated our identity from that which we are not. And I am the awareful being. Sakshi means a witness. So the Vishayi, the subject, is the witness. All these things we've identified as anatma are the saksha, the things that are witnessed, the things that are known. And it's like the sun. So just as awareness illumines the mind and body enjoy a borrowed awareness, but the mind and body are illumined by awareness and seem to become awareful. Just like the moon, we could say, Indian poets talk about the cooling rays of the moon, the scorching rays of the sun, right? And so the moon shines. There's moonshine. Don't confuse this with the problematic liquor that's distilled in the Appalachians, right? It's called moonshine, this liquor, supposedly, apparently. Where you say the beautiful moonshine. Let's take a walk, when they have the moon shine on us. Does the moon shine? Trick question, think hard. Yes or no? The obvious answer is yes. The real answer is no. The moon is not inherently luminous. The moon enjoys a borrowed luminosity from the sun. The sun shines, the sun illumines the moon, and yet we say the moon shines. Atma Chaitanya shines, it illumines the mind, and therefore the mind can say, I am awareful. It enjoys a borrowed awarefulness just like the moon enjoys a borrowed luminosity. Now, the sun, if it's the ajnani, if it fails to know that its essence is pure luminosity, it might say, and it would need a Swami to come and correct it, it might say, oh, I'm so dusty. I'm filled with craters, right? If it's mistaken that which it illumines as itself. It is the center of the entire solar system. And yet, if it identifies with that which it illumines it will take itself to be this small, dead moon orbiting the Earth. And it would say, I enjoy the qualities of the moon. The moon is dusty. The moon has craters, right? The sun enjoys none of those qualities. The illuminator does not inherently enjoy any of the attributes of that which it illumines. Atma Chaitanya does not inherently enjoy any qualities of that which it illumines. What does awareness illumine? The upadhi, the mind, the body, the senses, right? Those are not qualities of you, right? And yet the mind can say, I am awareful, just like the moon can say, I am awareful. So this is a very powerful example. But aham sakshi. And actually, we have to go a step further, because sakshi is still one step away. Because just as the moon, just as the sun is not an illuminator, it's only in regard to the moon that we can say that the sun is an illuminator. The sun is not busy illumining, the sun simply shines. And in the presence, from the perspective of the moon, we can say the sun is an illuminator. But its swarupa is just luminosity itself. So too with us. In respect, vis-a-vis the upadhi, I say I am the illuminator of the mind and the senses. But the Atma Chaitanya does nothing. It's not busy illumining, it is simply shines as limitless awareness. Again, we could spend a lot of time on that, but we'll move forward. You all, I'm sure, are awake, and maybe some of you have question marks over your head, but I see you're all following me. Nityoham, I am nityaha. I am free from time. Our concept of time is time-bound. We often think that something that is eternal, the translation of nitya is often eternal. But our concept of eternality is time-bound, right? Something that goes on forever and ever and ever. Like one of those walkways in the airport, a conveyor belt. Imagine an endless conveyor belt, and you stand on there, and your time passes, and you're constantly moving through time. That's not what we mean by eternal. That's called pravaha nityatvam. What we mean is free of time. Because time is mithya. We haven't talked about mithya yet. We'll talk about that soon. Time is no reality. When you say now, what's your definition of now? Right? Is it a millennium? Is it a century? Is it a decade? Is it a year? Is it a month? Is it a fortnight? I love the term fortnight. It's much more clear than, we'll have a meeting bi-monthly. Does that mean every other month, or does it mean twice a month? So if you want to be clear, say fortnightly if you mean every 2 nights, every 2 weeks. Is it a fortnight? Is it a week? Is it a day? Is it an hour? Is it a minute? Is it a second? Is it a microsecond? Is it right? What is any unit of time you have is divisible, right? So anything that's divisible is not inherently real, because you can bifurcate it, you can cut it in half. The reality of time is the timeless present moment. So I've arranged for a very special moment to arrive shortly. Okay? A very special moment. So let's wait for it. It's coming. Patience. It's almost here. Are you ready? Now. It's gone. When I was waiting for that moment, what time was it? It was now. When that moment arrived, what time was it? It was now. Now that moment is long gone, I'm never sure if time moves to the right or to the left. Anyway, it was now. The only thing that's real is now, and the now is timeless. And the reality of the timeless present moment is you. Your presence is your asmita, is your existence. And your existence, your very presence, lends reality to the present moment. There's nothing here but you at this moment. The past is just a memory. The future is just an anticipation. Time is not real. It's experienced, and we'll talk about that shortly. But the reality of time is your very presence, because you're the only thing up. And upon the timeless moment, periodic time is superimposed. Pratyagatma, this inner self. there is no, it's provisional, this inner self. There is no inner self and there is no outer self. So we have a pot. A pot can also be used as a drishtanta, an illustration of an upadhi. So there's ghatakasha and mahakasha. There's space within the pot, and there's space, ghatakasha, and there's space outside the pot, mahakasha, right? So the pot captures space, right? Yeah. Be careful. No. The pot captures air, vayu. If I were to burn some incense and hold it in the pot, some of you have seen this magic before, and I close it, the smoke of the incense will be present here in the pot, and when I move it over here, I can release the incense smoke. So the vayu and the incense smoke live in the same reality as the pot. So pot can capture the air, right? The air that I capture here is now released here. Does the pot capture space? No. When I capture the air here, I don't bring the space that's over here, right? The space is not in the pot is in space. Space is in and through the material, the clay, right? Space is that which accommodates three-dimensionality, that provides for three-dimensionality. Akasha is that which accommodates. And the akasha, the space, is free of anything it accommodates, right? There is no ghatakasha and mahakasha. The space within the pot and the space outside of the pot is only from the perspective of the pot. But the pot is completely permeated by space, while space remains asanga, untouched. It's untouched by that which it accommodates. So to you, in the space of your awareness, you accommodate all experience. But just as the pot the space does not inherently become, 16 ounces or whatever this is, a pint, or 16 ounces, or 32 tablespoons, right? Or 96 teaspoons. You work it out, right? The pot doesn't capture space and it does not define space. Space accommodates the pot. And the pot can say, oh yes, my space is 16 ounces. So to Atma Chaitanya, Atma, nothing that is, no upadhi delimits you, or confines you, or defines you. Your awareness, your existent being, accommodates all of your upadhi, all of your thoughts, but those thoughts and emotions do not capture you and do not define you. Shivoham, Shivoham. Shiva means a couple things. It means that which is auspicious, mangalam. And that which conduces to giving you what you want is considered mangalam, auspicious. Right? Shiva means auspicious. And so the Lord gives us moksha, you could say. The Lord is the most auspicious. We're all seeking the beloved. We're all seeking the Lord. We're all seeking moksha. Atmanastu kamaya sarvam prima bhavati. Everything appears attractive because I'm looking for the pleased self through kama, artha, and dharma. All of your pursuits are really, you're seeking the Lord, you're seeking moksha, when clearly understood. But when you say, aham shivaha, I am Ishvara, I am the Lord, aham brahmasmi, what does that mean? We can see it on a couple different levels. The wave and ocean. What's the relationship between a wave and the ocean? The vyashti upadhi is part and parcel of the samashti upadhi. The microcosm is part and parcel of the macrocosm, right? The wave is part and parcel of the ocean. There's a plethora of waves. There's countless waves. And from the perspective of the wave form, the wave may take itself to exist in a certain ocean. It's going to crash on the shore. It's covered with seaweed. You may have styrofoam on it. It's a certain size, right? But it can say, I am part of the Lord, because the ocean represents the Lord. And so the Lord each wave is part of the ocean. Each individual is part of the Lord. This physical body is part and parcel of the entire, this stula sharira is part and parcel of the entire srishti, stula srishti, right? This physical body is part and parcel of the entire physical creation, right? And so to the subtle sukshma sharira, right? Your mind and thought and prana and all that is part of the subtle body of God, if you will, called Hiranyagarbha. So there's nothing on a relative level. This is why we talk about harmony, right? The individual is part and parcel of the total. The microcosm is part and parcel of the macrocosm. The vyashti upadi, the microcosmic upadi, is part and parcel of the ocean, right? So just as the waveform is an upadi for the individual wave, right? Just as this body-mind sense complex is an upadi for me, Ishwara's upadi is the entire ocean, right? Called Maya, which we'll talk about in another class. But what is the truth of the wave? The truth of the wave is dihydrogen oxide. Be careful, if you drink too much dihydrogen oxide, it could kill you. What is dihydrogen oxide? H2O, it's water. So when the wave from self-identity removes all the incidental attributes of its particular place, its nation, its form, its size, when it does neti, and an orange wave comes and says, you are water, you are the 10th man, it says, oh, my reality is water. My waveness is just a form superimposed upon the truth, which is water. What's the truth of ocean? Water. So when Bhagavan says, the ocean says, because it's very large, endless, when Bhagavan says, aham asmi, right, when the ocean says, I am, it's pointing to the same water that the wave is. There's only one water. One water manifests as countless individual waves. One water manifests as the entirety of the ocean. But there's only one ekam advitiyam vastu. There's only one true entity there of any substance. Everything else is just a costume. Everything else is just incidental. Everything else is just nupati, right? And so you can say, aham shivaha. You're not saying at one level you can say the Ishvara is part and parcel of the wave is part and parcel of the ocean, but that's not the vision of Vedanta that we're aiming at. What we're trying to understand is what is the Swarupa, what is the unchanging reality. The unchanging reality of the wave and the ocean is water. The unchanging reality of you and Ishvara is this one Sadvastu, which when I say aham, I call Atma. When Ishvara says aham, it's called Brahman. But I am Atma Brahma. There's only one thing there. Atma is Brahman. They're synonyms. All right, let's go to the next verse. Again, I know some of this is like drinking from a fire hose. But you can always, there's plenty of opportunities to continue learning this. And all this is recorded. So if you want to hear this Swami drone on and on, you can feel free to put yourself to sleep listening to the to the classes. So this is verse 3. Abhatitam vishwamatmanya satyam. Abhatitam vishwamatmanya satyam. I didn't do the right the first time, but that's okay. Satya jnanananda rupe vimohat. Satya jnanananda rupe vimohat. Nidra mohat swapnavatanna satyam. Nidra mohat swapnavatanna satyam. Shuddha purno nitya eka shivoham. Shuddha purno. The orangeness of this drinking bottle is an anti-theft mechanism. You know, someone sees an orange bottle here, they might say, oh, this might belong to a Swami, I shouldn't take that. I wonder if there's a typo here. No, it's fine there. Okay. Abhati, this is a beautiful teaching here. Abhati idam vishwam atmani asatyam. So idam vishwam. Vishwam means jagat, this creation. Notice the word idam, we've been using it, this creation. This chair, this table, this clock, this body, this mind, this emotion is all idam, not aham. It's all an object to the subject. Atma is unobjectifiable. Everything else that is anatma, not the self, is objectifiable, right? In the literal sense of the word. Sometimes it's you objectify somebody. That's not what we're talking about, right? And so what is objectifiable is not the self. And the reason why this teaching is so nuanced is because the Shastra and the teacher is trying to show you something that is unavailable for any other means of knowledge. It's not available for pratyaksha, for perception. It's not available for anumana, anupalabdhi, upamana. It's not available for any means of knowledge except for language, like our 10th man. Because you cannot take awareness and bring it out in front of yourself to objectify. Atma will never appear to you because you would be the Atma to whom Atma was appearing. And there's no bifurcation of awareness. You can't split awareness in half and say, I'll be aware of this part of awareness and I'll remain the other awareness, right? It would be infinite regression. If you needed to objectify awareness, then you would be the objectifier. And so you would always have to be the subject. And the subject can only be known, the aham brahmasmi. And so we have these various prakriyas, these various teaching methodologies to reveal that which is ever present and can never be objectified. That's why this teaching is very nuanced. And the difference, the reason this is called traditional Vedanta is because within the Shruti, within the Vedas, within the scriptures, there are traditional prakriyas, teaching methodologies, and these methodologies are elaborated on in the bhashya, in the commentaries. So the commentaries of Adi Shankaracharya hold the teaching sampradaya, the teaching methodologies that are used to reveal this. People who don't have, Advaita teachers who don't have access to the traditional methodologies are sometimes, their presentation is sometimes lacking, I find. Abhati idam. Idam, this world, this universe, abhati, appears or shines, atmani, in the self. This vishwam is asatyam. Asatyam means it's a nanshta purusha, not true. Satyam means real or true. Asatyam means not true. Because now we've created this radical duality, the world and everything else. And now my idea of the world includes this body-mind-sense complex, right? This body is just another object in the world that I happen to, which is on loan, right? That I happen to identify with. But are there two things? Sankhya, which is an Astika Darshana, which is a classical Indian philosophy, says, yes, there's two real things. Advaita says there's only one real thing. The Upanishad says there's only one real thing. But Swamiji, we just started saying there's all this other stuff. So there's two things, right? And so how do we account for the experience of the plurality of the world? We'll see that when we talk in the next verse about Maya. But asatyam, this false universe shines, appears in Atma. When we analyze reality, we could say, on one hand, we have satyam. Satyam, truth, reality. That which is true is trikalepi tishtati abadita, that which abides in all three periods of times and cannot be dismissed. That which is illusionary. Some people translate Maya as illusion. We don't do that. Maya is something completely different. But that which is completely non-existent, like a square circle, or a Vandhyaputra, right? The son of somebody who has no children, or Shashavishana, the horns of a rabbit. Maybe with genetic engineering you'll find a rabbit that has horns. Someone sent me a Photoshop of a hare with horns, But that's tucham. That's completely unreal. It doesn't exist at all. You have to combine two things that really never fit together. What is the reality of the world? Is it satyam? It's not real. Is it unreal? No, it's not completely unreal. Sat chet na badhyeta, asat chet na pratiyeta. If it sat chet, if it were real, it wouldn't come and go. Everything in this world has a prag-pratvamsa abhava. It has a posterior and prior non-existence. It didn't exist before and it won't exist later. Right? Asat chet, if we're completely unreal, na pratiyeta, we wouldn't experience it. It wouldn't appear. I've never seen a square circle. I've never seen the son of somebody who has no children. Right? So what is the reality of this world? It's not illusionary. Illusionary often means that which is tucham, which is absolutely non-existent. And that's not what is taught. So, I wear a shirt. Somewhere underneath here, there's a shirt, right? You say, Swamiji, I see your shirt. I say, there's only cloth. Who's right? Now think carefully. When a Swami is talking to you, who would you suppose is correct? Do we have two things there? Is there a shirt and cloth? Right? If you wear a shirt, then I would ask you, bring the shirt but leave the cloth. Can you do it? You can't do it. Are there two things there? There's no two things there. I can take a seam ripper. You know, any seamstresses here? Or I don't know what the masculine form for a seamster. I don't know, right? I could take a seam ripper and remove all the stitching. My cloth would remain. Your shirt would disappear. The cloth existed before the presence of the shirt. The cloth existed in the presence of the shirt. The cloth exists after the shirt goes away. In fact, I don't need to actually destroy your nicely tailored shirt. We can take a cognitive seam ripper and understand cognitively that there is no shirt there. We can cognitively take the shirt apart and recognize there's only cloth there. The color of the shirt is the color of the cloth. The texture of the shirt is the texture of the cloth. How much does the shirt weigh? Well, Swamiji, first you'd have to weigh the cloth, and then you'd have to weigh the shirt, and then you'd have to subtract the weight of the shirt from the weight of the cloth, or whatever algorithm you use. What are you going to end up with? The weight of the shirt is the weight of the cloth. There's nothing there but cloth plus a superimposed functional form. That's why we talk about nama rupa. There's a form, shirt, superimposed upon cloth. The cloth is immanent. It's ever present in the shirt. When I touch the shirt, I'm really touching the cloth. But the cloth is transcendent because it transcends the form that was superimposed upon the shirt. There's nothing shirty about the cloth, right? We don't have a cloth shirt. It sounds like cloth is an adjective to shirt. We don't have a cloth shirt. We have shirty cloth. Because cloth is the substantive, the shirt is the adjective. You with me? Form is functional, right? Most people don't wear just, cloth. They wear a shirt. But just because something is functional doesn't mean it's inherently real. The reality word, this is ontology, this is the analysis of reality. The reality word we use for the shirt is mithya. Mithya, M-I, not N-I-T, M as in mother, I-T-H-Y-A, mithya. And that's a word that indicates that something is adhisthana anyat. It is not separate from its basis. The basis of the shirt is cloth, and you can remove the shirt, but within this level of the example, you can't remove the cloth because the shirt is totally dependent upon the cloth. Remember I mentioned Ada, what was in my cubicle, and my Kerala employee said, "What are you doing here?" Ada ante chyanasti vartamane pitatata from Gadapadakaraka. That which has a prior and posterior non-existence, its reality should be considered quite dubious here, vartamane api, even here in the present moment. The shirt's reality is quite dubious because there's only cloth there. Okay. Does the shirt exist? Is it existent? Sat Chaitanya Badhita, if it were truly existent, it would be permanent. And within the confines of this example, it comes and goes. Right? The cloth existed before the form was superimposed upon it. It existed in the presence of the shirt, and the cloth exists after the shirt is the stitching is removed. Is it unreal? Is it just totally imaginary? Right? Like a Sheshavishana, like the horns of a hare? No. Asachetna pratiyeta. If it was absolutely unreal, it wouldn't appear. We wouldn't experience it. So it's this gray ground where it is asadbhyam anirvachaniyam, another definition of mithya. It cannot categorically be said, it is anirvachaniya. It cannot categorically be said to be real, sat. And it cannot categorically be said, it fits to be unreal, asat. Right? It doesn't fit in any of those categories. It's somewhere in between. It has a dependent reality. Notice that mithya is not a thing, it's a reality word. Notice that mithya does not hide satyam. The shirt does not hide cloth. This entire creation is mithya. It does not hide satyam. The mithya never hides satyam. Wherever there's mithya, there has to be satyam. Wherever there's a shirt, there has to be some cloth. But there's nothing inherently shirty about cloth. Cloth can manifest as pants, as a shawl, right, as a sweater. Cloth doesn't care whatever form is superimposed upon it. Now, so a jnani, a cloth jnani, one who knows the truth of the shirt, will see the cloth, right? Someone who's ignorant will say, "Oh, it's a shirt. I don't see the reality of it." Now look at this. So the cloth is real, satyam. The shirt is mithya, only apparent. I say there's no cloth there. There's only threads. Who's more real? Come on. Swami's real. Who's more true? What's more true? Right? What I'm saying is true. Because I can take your cloth and I can pull apart all the threads. I will still have my pile of threads and your cloth is gone. The reality of the cloth is dependent upon the threads. Right? Cloth is a form superimposed upon threads. I continue to say there is no reality to the threads because there's only cotton here. I can take my reverse spinning wheel and unspin each thread, and I'll have a pile of cotton, and your threads are gone. But the cotton was present in the threads, and present in the cloth, and present in the shirt. I can take that cotton fibers, and I can reduce it to cells. I can take the cells and reduce it to molecules. I can take the molecules, reduce it to atoms. I can take the atoms and reduce them to protons and neutrons, right? And somewhere, when we get way down there, apparently there's more strings. I don't claim to understand that. But what actually exists? The verb to be is actually one of the few verbs in English that conjugates, right? I am, he runs, they run, you run. It changes a little differently. But in Sanskrit, aham asmi, tvam asi, tat asti, saha asti. All the verbs to be. I am, you are, it is. Am, are, is. The verb to be represents being, existence. Right? We say, I am, I exist. You are, you exist. It is, it exists. Are there three different existences? Is my existence different than your existence, which is different than that amplifier's existence? Look at this. When we say the shirt is, we think that isness or existence is an attribute of the shirt. Just like we thought the cloth is an attribute of the shirt. We don't have a cloth shirt. We have shirty cloth because the shirt is an attribute, an incidental nama-rupa that's superimposed upon cloth. Now look at existence. Is it an existing cloth? Is it an existing shirt? No, it's shirty existence. When your shirt when the stitching is removed, the shirt goes out of existence, but the cloth remains. Now the cloth is. Now when we deconstruct that cloth into a pile of threads, the threads are, right? Are is a plural form of is. So the shirt is, and the reality of the existence we initially attributed to the shirt, we now cannot apply to the shirt because the shirt had no inherent existence because it came and went. Now we apply the notion of existence to the cloth. But when we deconstruct the cloth, we have to apply that existence to the thread. Right? But when we unravel the thread, now the only thing we're left to apply that concept of existence to is the cotton fiber. Is. The shirt is, the cloth is, the thread is, the cotton is, the cotton fiber is, the cotton cells is. What is the constant there? The variable is the nama-rupa. The constant is isness, is existence. Existence is not an attribute, it is the substantive. And that is the substantive we talked about when we say Atma is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means existence. Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, as the Taittiriya Upanishad says. Satya means existence. The only thing that can claim existence as its own is this sadvastu, this one real thing in the back of your mind, what you're hoping to find, right? And that existence, everything seems to borrow. And that allows us to say, this auditorium exists, this body exists, my thought exists, my emotion exists, everything seems to exist. But the existence is not inherent in any name and form. Everything borrows that existence. Right? And so just because something is tangible doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it inherently enjoy its existence. Right? I can in a dream, I can be hit my dream head can be hit in the dream with a dream hammer, and I will have a dream bump on my head, and I'll have to hop in a dream ambulance and go to a dream hospital so they can address my dream bump. Just because it's experienced doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's unreal because we experience shirts, and form is functional. It's a form to which I give a name. A rupa means form. Nama means name. But just because something is functional and I give it a name doesn't mean it truly exists. It's somewhere in between. It's mithya. Can I chop existence in half? When I cut a piece of cloth in half, I have two pieces of cloth. So if in a singular piece of cloth, I'd say that cloth exists. When I cut them in half, that existence now belongs to two. That the one piece of cloth exists, the other piece of cloth exists. Sometimes dhotis and these angavastrams come as long, like a sari too, I think so. Sometimes come in two pieces, one for the sari and one for the choli, right? One for the top cloth. And sometimes you find this too. When I cut it in half, is the existence bifurcated? That's a nice word, bifurcated. Do you chop existence in half? Are there multiple existences? Does aham asmi, I am, is that isness, that asmita, different than your existence? Different than the astata, the existence of the amplifier? No, there's only one existence. There's only one non-dual existence, which appears as I am, appears as you are, and appears as it is. So if there's only one non-dual existence, the proper use of language Vyakarana, Paniniya Vyakarana Sutras notwithstanding, the rules of grammar notwithstanding, the proper way to say this is, I am, you am, it am. Because the existence that you and the world and I enjoy is not cut in half, right? You can't chop existence in half, so I can give you half of my existence, right? There is no bifurcation of existence, because anything that you could use to chop existence in half itself is dependent upon existence, just like space. You can't chop space in half. My hand bifurcates air, because the air that's here is not the air that's here, and my hand displaces air, but my hand does not displace space. Displace space, right? So too, my hand does not, nothing can displace or cut existence in half. So to awareness, I have shirt awareness, cloth awareness, thread awareness, cotton awareness, cotton cell awareness. What's the constant there? From my experience, the constant is awareness. You cannot chop awareness in half, because anything that would chop awareness in half, separate one awareness from another, exists in awareness. And I have to tell you, that's the chit of Sat Chit Ananda. That's the jnanam of Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. And Sat and Chit, existence and awareness, are not attributes of Atma. They are the same Atma expressed from two different perspectives. Atma does not enjoy awareness as an attribute. Atma does not enjoy existence as an attribute. The only thing that exists here is, you could say, awareful existence, right? Or existent awarefulness, right? And it's playing with words, because one becomes an adjective. Awareful is an adjective to the substantive noun existence. Or you could say existent awarefulness. Awarefulness is now the noun, and existent is an adjective. But that's just a way to try to tell us that when you know the truth of yourself, which is free of all of this upadhi, all of the karya karana sagata, right? When you recognize that the truth of yourself is one existent awareful being, which is the same awareful being that manifests as Ishvara, and therefore this entire creation, because Ishvara is the Jagat Karanam, the cause of this entire creation, and it also manifests as each individual, just as there's one water which manifests as each individual wave and the entirety of the ocean, but the existence of the wave totally depends on the existence of the water. The wave enjoys no inherent existence apart from the water. Bring the wave but leave the water. Good luck. The ocean, the existence of the ocean depends totally upon the existence of the wave. Existence of the water. I see the ocean, but where's the water? You need some help, right? And so this is just an extraordinary vision that there's nothing here but you, because where can you point to once you've extricated the incidental from your self-identity? Where can you look where you are not? Everything is known and everything exists. I triple dog dare you to show me something that you say does not exist. Show it to me. Everything in our experience is known. That knownness is Atma Chaitanya, and everything that we experience, we say exists, but that existence is not an attribute of the thing. The existence is the only thing that's here, and the entire creation is mithya nama rupa superimposed upon you. And so Atmani abhati. So in this verse, in the first line of this verse, it says, abhati idam vishwam, this entire creation, which is asatyam, which is mithya, abhati, shines, appears Atmani, upon me. And that Atmani has to be properly understood, or else you're going to say, how could it appear in me? I'm just this jiva. Itina, we know better than that, right? Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So we'll finish this verse today at 4 o'clock, and then we'll begin probably the verse 4. And the last two verses are basically summarizing verses. So we will, the last class we'll probably take verse 5 and 6, and then I'll read you this, if I have time, this extraordinary section, a commentary on the Kathopanishad Bhashya, Uttishcha Jagrata, it says. And it's very inspirational. But the Shankara Bhashya is just exquisite. The commentary he makes on that is beautiful. So hopefully we have time at the end to look at that.